On the train car in France, Amanda tells Lily she's sorry about how all of this came out. Lily complains that Amanda could have warned her weeks ago in Genoa City about Cain preparing to swoop back into her life. Amanda explains she signed an NDA. Lily knows that Devon ruined things for Amanda, but before that, they were practically family. She's confident that Amanda knows something. Amanda explains that Cain just wanted to start things with her again. Is that possible? Lily has already told him that will never happen. His bank account being bigger hasn't changed anything. They rehash Cain and Colin's history, and the lawyer explains that the Cain she knows now is very different from the man she knew in the past. Lily still worries her ex made his fortune by following in his father's criminal footsteps. Amanda believes in Cain's decency. This isn't winning Lily over, who remains sure that working with Colin again proves he's just a criminal. Disgusted, she walks out. After showering in their room, Billy tries to distract Sally with kisses, but she can't stop thinking about how they should be home and working. They need to launch Abbott Communications, and they can't do that while they are trapped there. Billy is confident that staying will help with the launch. They debate this, and she worries that Newman Media may have scooped them on the Dumas story. That seems unlikely to him. Billy knows that Cain wants Chancellor, and he wants Victor to lose the company. He thought he was dealing with an elusive billionaire, but now he's dealing with someone he knows. It's possible that he could make the score of a lifetime. Billy knows Chancellor inside out, and Cain will need him. Sally is sure he's putting a lot of time and emotional investment into something that won't pay off. Billy remains confident that he knows Cain. Billy feels Cain is a desperate man who needs family, and that means him. This is something they can use to their advantage. Spectra believes Billy's whole life is tied up with success and revenge. She reminds him they were supposed to be building something. He insists that revenge is not the center of his world, and he cares more about their company than words can express. He'll admit that he does want revenge, and he plans to use Cain to his advantage. Billy explains that he fought with Cain for 15 years, but occasionally they got along. He knows what Cain wants and that he needs him. Sally asks if, deep down, Billy wants Cain to hand him Chancellor to run. It's time for her to lay down some ground rules. Billy admits that he wants what he wants and thinks he can get it. Sally repeats they need some ground rules. He offers to put whatever she wants into a contract. She doesn't want to be walked out into the cold like Phyllis, and demands a binding agreement in writing that will give her control of Abbott Communications if he takes over Chancellor. She gave up a successful career at Marchetti for him. If this falls apart, she will be left with nothing. She points out that Billy can't run both companies. Sally needs to know that he trusts her and won't install someone over her. When he asks if this is a deal breaker, she says he better believe it. Kyle and Diane are at the dining table in the maze. He complains about the lack of roads and cell service. It's hard for him to imagine not talking to Harrison for another day or calling Claire about Cole. His mom reminds him that Claire has her mother and Harrison is excited to be in Italy with Summer. Diane will admit that this has been a strange adventure, but she has enjoyed spending all this time with Kyle and Jack. Kyle has been enjoying the cuisine. Diane and Kyle wonder where Jack wandered off to. She's starting to worry since he left a note telling her not to. Diane can't help but suspect that he snuck off for something she wouldn't approve of. The combination of rich food, drinking, sun, and strangeness means anything can happen. Her son senses something else might be gnawing at her. When she tries to play this off, he won't drop it. Diane admits she's concerned about him and blurts, "Audra is using you and it needs to stop now," she says. The whole Jabot versus Vibrante scheme makes no sense, and it just seems to be a plot of Victor's to get at Jack. Her son loves that she's always ready to go to war for her family, but he also thinks she's being overly dramatic. Diane has complete faith in her son, but there is something dark going on if Audra and Victor are working together again. Kyle assures her it's okay. He's one step ahead of whatever they're working on, Yanan, and he'll be the one to take Audra down. After Kyle swears that he is on alert, Diane repeats that Audra is only part of the equation. He laughs about how amazing it has been to watch Audra shoot, looks at Victor. "I've got this," he assures her. Audra bumps into Damian as she saunters through the maze. He's been looking for a cell signal so he can check on his mom. She reminds him he's not a little kid. Besides, Nate wouldn't let Amy get too upset. No one is steadier and more reassuring than her boyfriend. Damian continues to worry, but she tells him that being there isn't so bad. Audra asks about the sparks between him and Lily and points out he is part of her support system now. It must be weird for him to be in this Cain mess. Damian admits he and Lily are friends, but that's all. He claims he would never have led her into an ambush with her ex. Lily has made it clear she wants nothing to do with Cain. Sitting beside Audra, Damian asks what is going on between her and Kyle. Audra says they are only former colleagues. He doesn't buy it, so she tells him what he's noticing is just their relief that they don't loathe one another any longer. Damian compares this to her and Holden, and how much he wants to pick up with her again. Audra insists that she's with Nate, and he's the best man she's ever known. Maybe you're thinking of doing something behind Nate's back, Damian suggests. She says she and Kyle are only working together on a project. Damian's unconvinced. Audra repeats that nothing is happening between her and the abbot. To Damian, this seems more like a case of, whatever happens in Nice, stays in Nice. Audra doesn't appreciate him implying things and repeats that she's devoted to Nate. Damian admits he may not have been happy to have a half-brother at first, but now he's very protective of him. It would be great if he could believe her assurances, but he still needs to decide for himself. "I've got my eye on you," Damian warns before walking off. Devon and Abby sit by the pool. He wonders how he didn't know how bad things had become between Lily and Cain. Devon agrees with her decision to keep Cain out of her life after learning he'd reconciled with his father. He plans to deal with Cain and whatever he has planned for his sister. Chance pops up, complaining he couldn't find his Zen in the maze. They chat about how quickly Dominic has recovered. Abby admits she's surprised he's there. Chance explains that Cain told him that someone is going to try to kill him before this vacation is over. That's a surprise to the couple. The detective knows it sounds crazy, and Abby assumes it must be some sort of joke or murder mystery game. It makes no sense to Devon. Cain must have a safe room. All of this feels very off, as if Cain is trying to stir up drama. They mull over what this could mean. As Devon wonders if Cain planned to invite his own killer, Lily joins them and her brother explains that Cain has claimed someone is out to kill him. She finds this ridiculous and assumes it must be a grab for sympathy. Lily complains about her ex and how much she doesn't like or respect him. The games seem endless with him. Abby and Chance still have no idea what this means. Abby suggests it could all be a distraction, but what is Cain trying to hide? They wonder if the threat is fake. Lily suspects that Amanda is more likely to give something away. One of them needs to break her down and get her to talk. Amanda watches them all in the surveillance room. She receives a text from Cain informing her that he's headed for Genoa City for 2 days. He asks her to keep the guests entertained and distracted. Amanda sighs. "Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Pulse Canvas. It's me, Julie here. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Keep watching. So let's dive into today's video. The Young and the Restless spoilers for Tuesday, July 1st, have Billy making a promise to Sally, Nick questioning Damian about Cain, and Holden seizing a new opportunity. Billy and Sally agreed to put the launch of Abbott Communications on hold until after their trip to Nice, France, to meet the enigmatic Aristotle Dumas. Now that Dumas has been revealed to be Cain Ashby, there's no reason to hold off on Billy and Sally getting their new venture up and running. On Tuesday's episode, watch for Billy to make Sally a promise. Does it have to do with their new company and it finally going up against Newman Media? Or will Billy promise Sally that he's not going to get involved in any business wars with Cain or Victor? Or will Billy give what Sally wants? To put it in writing, that if he takes over Chancellor, he'll let her run Abbott Communications? Nick Newman isn't a private eye, but he has been asking a lot of questions since Cain made his return at his big gala. First, Nick grilled Cain in the maze of shrubbery, wanting to know what his plans were for Chancellor Industries, the company Nick's mother Nikki operates. On Tuesday's show, watch for Nick to continue his pursuit of learning as much as he can about Cain. He's going to ask Damian for information about his ex-boss. Nick's wise to single out Damian if he wants to know what's truly going on with Cain. Even though they'd never met face-to-face, Damian had worked with Cain for quite some time. He has to know things other people do not. Holden has been at loose ends since losing his job with Idumas. Holden feels on the outs with Damian and Audra. He's likely looking for his next opportunity, both professionally and personally. Will this new opportunity represent the former, the latter, or both? We know he's been involving himself in real estate deals. But who is behind the new company he's working for? Young and restless Cain wants Lily back, and it's beginning to appear as though his plan to win her back may be more diabolical than we ever could have imagined possible. And it threatens to destroy not only a person's life, but also a newly formed family. Since revealing his true identity to his guests, Cain has made certain things abundantly clear. He wants Chancellor Industries, and he wants his ex-wife Lily back. We've also learned that he doesn't like to take no for an answer, or so Amanda has warned. Something else we've discovered along the way is that Cain believes someone will try to kill him before the adventure in Nice comes to an end. Since we weren't privy to his conversation with Chance after revealing this little bombshell, we have no idea why he thinks this. Some of his guests are angry with his deception and are irked by the idea of his returning to Genoa City. But certainly there's no one who wants to murder him over it. It left us with questions and a horrifying possible answer. Why would Cain call Chance to his chateau as a detective, rather than alerting the French authorities about a possible attempt on his life? Well, it reeks of a setup. It's obvious none of Ashby's guests have any reason to want him dead, so there's a strong possibility he's laying the groundwork for a frame-up. Who would Cain want to frame? Why, Damian, of course. He'll need to get him out of the way in order to get Lily back. But that's not the only reason. Cain's aware that after handing Damian the keys to the kingdom, he was planning to jump ship to spy on him for the Winters family. During their first confrontation in the train car, Cain let it slip that he knew that's what Damian was planning. During their second confrontation, Cain issued Damian a warning, thus setting the scene to escalate the situation. Unfortunately for Damian, he's playing right into Cain's hands by being openly hostile and cozying up to Lily right under his nose. Given that Damian was fired by the man, and they both want same woman, Chance will have no trouble assigning motive once Cain gets stabbed. Yes, stabbed. How do we know? Cain conveniently placed a knife collection in the same train car Damian was staying in, so naturally he picked one up and left his fingerprints all over it. How much do you want to bet that becomes the attempted murder weapon? We say attempted murder because the writers clearly didn't bring Cain back only to kill him off. Instead, the former Khan will make it appear as though he was attacked and let Damian take the fall, thus getting him out of the way where Lily's concerned, while also making him pay the price for his disloyalty. How did Cain find out that Damian was planning to jump ship and spy on him for the Winters family? If our hunch is correct, someone snitched. It wasn't Amanda who was unaware, and it wouldn't have been Devon or Nate, so that leaves the one other person who had some idea of the plan. Holden Novak. Ironic, considering he accused Damian of being a terrible friend. Imagine if Holden inadvertently helped set up his former friend for an attempted murder charge by supplying information to Cain behind his back. It's not a stretch given we suspect Novak is the one helping Ashby buy up prime real estate in Genoa City. If Cain's diabolical plan to take revenge on his former employee and eliminate him as competition for Lily's affections works, not only will Damian's life be destroyed, but Nate and Amy's newly formed family will be torn apart as well. What do you think, Soaps readers? The Young and the Restless, spoilers for Tuesday, July 1st. See Holden sees an opportunity. Plus, Nick has some questions for Damian about Cain, and Billy promises Sally something big. It's going to be a day filled with drama, and you won't want to miss one bit of the action in Genoa City. Holden is out of a job. However, he seems to like hanging around Genoa City. While he has a history with Audra, she isn't interested in spending much time with him. Interestingly, Holden seems to have a connection with Claire, and the Sieve had a few good conversations. With Kyle out of town, Holden even got the chance to help calm Claire down as she worried about Cole's health. Now, Holden seizes a new opportunity. Does it have something to do with Claire, Or is it about the new opportunity he had with a new real estate conglomerate in town? Nick is in Italy. He's been hanging out with his parents as well as Sharon and Phyllis. Nick wants to figure out what's going on with their host, Cain. It seems Damian might know something about Cain since he worked for him. That's probably why Nick quizzes Damian about Cain. Will he get anything of use? Billy and Sally got together after Chelsea and Adam cheated on them, respectively. Now, Billy and Sally are also working together. Of course, some of Billy's tendencies make Sally feel wary. She's tried hard to rein Billy in. Now, Billy makes a promise to Sally. How long will it be before he breaks it? Kyle certainly can't take care of himself. Diane laid her cards on the table for Kyle on the June 30th episode of The Young and the Restless. She all but drew him a picture and used finger puppets to illustrate. But Kyle assured his mommy that he was a smart, big boy, and he was totes in control of the situation. Audra isn't playing him. How could Audra play him when he's so smart? There is nothing Diane could say that would convince him, which is why the time for talk is over, and the time for action has begun. Diane has been a schemer since before Kyle was born. Literally. He wouldn't even exist if Diane hadn't tried to trick Victor by stealing his sperm, but ended up with Jack's instead. Diane faked her own death and nearly got Nikki sent to prison for it. Then, when her scheme came out, she managed to shrug it all off and got Jack to not just fall in love, but marry her. This is a masterclass in plotting. If Kyle were smart, he'd listen closely. Alas, Kyle is very, very dumb. That's why, even though Kyle can't see how Audra is pulling his strings, Diane most certainly can. She knows there's more to Audra and Victor than just business, and she understands that Kyle and Jack are the real targets. So if the men in her life aren't willing to take up arms in their own defense, then it's down to Diane. And in a battle between Kyle's mom and Kyle's ex, our money will be on Diane every time. However, if Victor lowers himself to stepping in, all bets are off. Victor always wins, which will mean an advantage for Audra, until Victor decides to cut her out too. On the Monday, June 30th episode of The Young and the Restless, Chance relays Cain's concerns about being killed. Sally sets some ground rules, and Cain heads to Genoa City. In Nice, Billy and Sally canoodled in their private sleeping car after showering together. He kissed her neck, and she asked if he was trying to distract her from being stuck there indefinitely. She groused that they needed to launch Abbott Communications, but they couldn't do anything from there. Billy insisted that being there would only help the launch, as long as they played it right. Sally fretted that someone else could be breaking the story about Cain being Dumas. Billy reasoned that Cain was too smart to let anyone on the outside know the truth, and no one there had internet access. Billy continued that being on the inside was where the true value was, and Cain wanted Victor to lose Chancellor in a public, humiliating way. Billy crowed that once he spent 5 minutes with Cain, the trip would turn into the score of a lifetime. Billy explained that Cain had been gone from Chancellor for a long time, so Cain needed Billy, who knew the company inside and out. Sally anticipated that Billy would spend his time and energy on something that wouldn't pay off. Billy argued that Cain was still the same desperate guy who'd needed family so badly that he'd latched onto Jill and Catherine. Billy believed Cain needed him as a brother, even if they weren't blood, and he intended to use that to their advantage. Sally ranted that success, revenge, and respect consumed Billy's every thought. Billy swore that he cared about Abbott Communications. Sally asked where it ranked compared to beating Victor, and Billy deadpanned that it was tied for first. Sally chided him for joking about it. Billy reiterated that Cain needed him to wrestle Chancellor from Victor. Sally envisioned what would happen if Cain was so grateful that he handed Chancellor over to Billy to run. She sensed it was exactly what Billy was hoping for, and she announced that it was time to set some ground rules. Billy conceded that he wanted what he wanted, and he believed he could get it. He asked what that meant for him and Sally, and he offered to put whatever she wanted into his contract with Cain. Sally asserted that Billy was looking after his wants and needs, and she had to look after hers to ensure she wasn't left out in the cold. Sally insisted on getting a binding written agreement giving her control of Abbott Communications if Billy got Chancellor back. Sally reminded Billy that she'd given up a successful career to go all in with him on Abbott Communications. Sally recognized that she'd have nothing if it fell apart, and she wanted reassurance that Billy trusted her to run Abbott Communications if he was running Chancellor. She added that if he got what she wanted, then so would she. Billy asked if it was a deal-breaker. "You better believe it is," she replied. Elsewhere on the train, Lily stepped into a shared car to fetch something to drink and ran into Amanda. Amanda sympathized that the news had been a shock, and she hoped Lily was okay after having time to process. Lily replied that she was still processing, and she expressed surprise that Amanda hadn't warned her that Cain was about to swoop back into her life. Amanda defended that Cain was her boss, and it was her job to follow his directions. She swore that she'd tried to handle things with Lily with sensitivity. Lily asked what Amanda knew about Cain's intentions outside of Chancellor. Amanda confided that Cain hadn't told her anything outright, but it was clear that Cain hoped to start over with Lily. Lily asserted that she'd already told Cain they were never getting back together. Amanda apologized for not recognizing that Lily would feel betrayed by both Amanda and Cain. Lily questioned whether Amanda had been witness to Cain and Colin's reunion, or seen Colin change from being a lifelong criminal. Amanda reported that Colin had already passed when she'd been hired, but Cain had become a very different man from the one she'd met years earlier. Lily inquired whether Cain had taken Colin's place by committing crimes of his own. Amanda swore that she never would have taken the position if she hadn't believed in Cain's decency. Lily lectured that Cain knew how destructive and vicious his father had been, yet he'd bought Colin's lies and tried to convince her to let Colin see his grandkids. Amanda referred to the deep bond Lily and Cain obviously shared. Lily spat that Cain had gotten everything he had by being exactly like his father, and if she cared, she'd be sad. But she was disgusted. She stalked off. In the dining area on Cain's estate, Kyle complained about not being able to reach Harrison or Claire due to the lack of cell and internet service. Diane assured him that Harrison was excited to be in Italy with Summer, and Claire and Victoria needed family time with Cole. Diane shared that Jack had left a note by the bed that morning to say he was going out exploring, and not to worry, but she thought that meant she should start worrying. Diane suspected Jack's note was a cover story for what he was really up to, and she was sure he'd left before she'd woken up because he'd known she wouldn't approve. She remarked that the whole situation, with its isolation and frustration mixed in with sun, food, and drinking, had led to judgment going out the window, and anything could happen. Kyle sensed that something else was eating at Diane. After some prodding from Kyle, Diane eventually blurted out that Audra was using him, and it needed to stop. Diane theorized that Victor was only investing in Audra to use her to get what he wanted, to hurt Jack by hurting Kyle. Diane advised Kyle to watch his back, since she'd seen Audra and Victor exchanging glances when they thought no one would notice. Diane warned that Victor and Audra were working together to take Kyle down. Diane swore that she had complete faith in Kyle, but she reminded him of what had happened the last time he'd been caught in the middle. She begged him to open his eyes to what Victor was doing. Kyle insisted it was fine because he knew Victor and Audra had plans, but he was one step ahead of them, and he pledged to take Audra down first. Kyle assured Diane that he didn't trust Audra, and he was just keeping his enemy close. Audra made her way through to the maze and ran into Damian, who lamented that he hadn't been able to call home. He feared that Amy would stress about why he hadn't checked in, but Audra pointed out that he was a grown man on vacation, not a middle schooler. Audra was sure Nate wouldn't let Amy get upset, but Damian bemoaned that they didn't know if Amy's condition had changed. Audra reasoned that it wasn't so bad being there, and she cited the sparks between Damian and Lily. Audra imagined it was strange for Damian to be spending more time with Lily and hoping for more, only to find out the man behind the entire trip was Lily's ex. Damian admitted he and Lily were friends, and Lily had made it clear that she wanted nothing to do with Cain. Audra considered Lily lucky to have both Damian and Devon by her side. Damian asked what was going on with Audra and Kyle. Audra said she and Kyle were former colleagues, but Damian scoffed at the thought that there had been nothing more. Audra conceded that her romantic involvement with Kyle had been a mistake, but after loathing one another for a while, she could finally coexist with him to get attention for Vibrante. Audra pointed out that Kyle was serious with Claire, while Audra was with Nate. Audra added that Nate was the best man she'd ever known, and she wouldn't do anything to risk losing him. Damian clucked that it wasn't a risk if Nate didn't know anything, and he suspected Audra was thinking about doing something behind Nate's back. Audra explained that she and Kyle had been collaborating on a social media campaign that would go live once they got back online. Damian speculated that the social media push was a cover for something else that was happening between the two. Audra apologized if she'd offended Damian by asking about Lily, but she warned him against implying things when she was devoted to Nate. Damian acknowledged that he'd become very protective of his half-brother, and he reiterated that he had his eye on her. Poolside, Devin and Abby discussed how the trip had been one surprise after another. They tried to relax as Chance joined them. Abby voiced surprise that Chance had accepted Cain's invitation, and she assumed he was there to represent the Chancellors. Chance revealed that Cain wanted him there because Cain thought someone would try to kill him before the vacation was over. Abby guessed that it was a murder mystery game as part of the trip's activities, but Chance believed Cain was genuinely concerned. Devin questioned why Cain would throw an event like that if he thought his life was in danger. Chance planned to keep his eyes and ears open, looking for intent and means. Devin incredulously asked if it had been part of Cain's plan to invite his own killer. Lily overheard as she approached. Devin informed Lily that Cain had claimed someone was going to try to kill him. Lily surmised Cain was trying to get her to feel sorry for him, in the hope everything would be forgiven, but she maintained that they wouldn't get back together because she didn't love him anymore. Abby assumed it was a distraction, and she wondered what else Cain was trying to hide. Devin, Lily, and Abby brainstormed about what Cain was up to. Chance intended to get answers by talking to Cain. Lily thought Amanda knew more than she was letting on, and she proposed that one of them break Amanda down and get her to talk. Abby looked at Devin. Amanda watched the group at the pool on a surveillance camera. She received a text message from Dumas, saying he was headed to Genoa for 2 days. He instructed her to keep everyone entertained and distracted. On The Young and the Restless, Mariah hasn't been herself since she went on her last business trip. But what started as seeming distraught has elevated into a separation. Mariah's been keeping what happened to her a secret, but this week, the walls begin to close in. Recently on The Young and the Restless, Tessa was blindsided when her wife Mariah told her that she suddenly wanted a separation. There was no sign of serious trouble in the couple's relationship, at least, not until Mariah had gone on a business trip and came back completely changed. Viewers have a little more insight as to what happened on that fateful trip than Tessa, thanks to some flashbacks that were shown. Other than Mariah's memories, there are the conversations that she has had with her therapist mother, Sharon, who has tried to be there for her daughter, but she won't open up to her either. However, there have been a few tells along the way. Last month, Mariah talked to Sharon and told her that when she was away, she did something so horrible that she couldn't tell anyone. Mariah explained that Ian Ward's recent return to their lives affected her more than she was willing to admit to herself, but it was eating her alive. She had been raised by a predator, and she couldn't help but tell herself that if someone that awful was obsessed with having her, then she must be a terrible person as well. Filled with emotions that she couldn't express, Mariah had turned to drinking that night when she was away. Flashbacks showed her in a lounge, drinking alone until an older gentleman approached her. He ended up joining her, and they drank together. In the last flashback we saw, they were getting physically closer. Sharon assured Mariah that she would help her figure out what to do next, but Mariah only wanted to go back in time and have whatever she did never happen. Mariah gave us one hint. "I did something Ian would be proud of," Mariah told Sharon. Mariah shared that she was broken. If she had been a better person when she realized who Ian Ward really was, she would have disowned him, but she didn't. Instead, she helped him carry out his cons for years. Tessa told Mariah she had figured out that Mariah had cheated on her that night she was away, but Mariah said it was worse than a one-night stand. Did Mariah unleash decades of anger and angst caused by Ian on the man who resembled him? Did she con him the way she was groomed growing up? This week, the walls close in on Mariah. With her separation being known and her public meltdown in Crimson Lights, it's only a matter of time before Sharon has some real concerns and will want answers. Tessa deserves them as well, and she won't stop till she understands why the woman she loves has left her and their daughter. While we don't think Mariah killed the guy, she may have robbed him. Will the police show up with questions of their own? With legendary soap actor Michael Swan playing the role of her mystery man, we can bet that we'll see more of him soon. What exactly is Cain up to now? For the Tuesday, July 1st episode of The Young and the Restless, spoilers photos show the party in Paris continues, but without its host. Cain's garden party may be winding down, but it's not over quite yet. Nick and Sharon join Lily to sit and discuss all the shocking twists and turns of the past week. It's a lot for anyone to wrap their mind around, and they can only imagine how Lily is feeling. Her ex is now a powerful billionaire. Wow! The real question is, though, what is Lily going to do next? Also hanging back are Diane and Kyle. This time in Paris has been very telling, especially for Kyle. He has a lot to think about, and even a bit of guilt to deal with. Kyle isn't great at sorting out his life or his feelings, so we can only imagine how this is going to go now. Funny enough, Cain isn't sitting around his Paris home with his guests. Instead, he's checking in at Crimson Lights. Isn't that interesting? Why would he leave his lavish home when there are so many people out and about on his property? Very curious. Even more curious is how he's going to deal with being approached by Holden. The Genoa City newcomer knows a good opportunity when he sees it, and chatting it up with the man who pretended to be Aristotle Dumas is too good to pass up. So, he pulls up a chair and gets to chatting. As far as Holden is concerned, they have much to discuss.